Wonderful. Right. Okay. Good afternoon to everyone. Thank you very much for joining today's WIRSM Europe branch meeting or webinar, should I say, on the subject of the new machinery regulation coming in January. My name is Josh Murphy. I work for Dexcom. We're a global medical device manufacturer. I head up EHS here in Europe for Dexcom, and I'm a relatively new committee member on the WIRSM Europe branch, and it's a great pleasure for me to host this webinar and on the subject of this new incoming machinery regulation update from the directive. And we have today with us Robert from the Swiss Safety Centre, who is going to run through an overview of those incoming changes, how it's going to impact machinery, builders, manufacturers, suppliers, and also a bit in terms of from a user perspective as well. So it should be a very good webinar. Looking forward to it. Robert has asked if you could keep the questions towards the end, so please enter them into the chat, or please enter them into the Q&A session that you should see at the bottom, and we'll get through to the questions at the end, so Robert can keep the flow through of his presentation. So with that, Robert, I will hand over to yourself. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate your expertise and time today.
Thank you very much, Josh. From me, also a warm welcome to everybody. I hope I will make you have a nice lunch break and not too boring, even though that, of course, regulation is nothing like the new Dan Brown or Harry Potter, I don't know. So it's very technical, and I will hopefully manage to get you the key changes that are coming in 2027, and why was everything done as it has been done. So basically, the goal of this will be that you understand why the regulation was introduced in the first place and what the key changes for everybody will be. I have tried to focus on your focus, so environment, health, and safety. And I assume that you are not on the manufacturing side, but on the side of the operators. So I try to shorten everything that's for the manufacturers. So machinery safety in Europe is basically one of the oldest approaches of the European Union or the European community, or even the European economic community. So the first machinery directive that we had was introduced in 1998. I was basically 1 year old, and came also in the same year into service. It was the first one, but it was always the same main focus. It was a minimum level of machinery safety across all member states, which of course have been a lot less than now back in these days. And this whole approach got revised a few times in 1993. Basically, there were no changes. It was just into a new directive because the whole European Union thing changed to the so it was in 1993. In 1998 there was also minor change, and then in 2006 there was the very big change. This was introducing also that it was obligatory to do a risk assessment. I remember this one. I was starting my university phase, and we heard about this in the news in Germany back in these days because people were very frightened what came and what they have to do, and the manufacturers didn't know because risk analysis and risk assessment for machinery was basically something new. Even though everybody was trying to build safe machinery, they were not using this method. And I asked my old colleagues in the Swiss Safety Center. They said that the problem was that everybody knew what was coming, but still the lectures, the courses, everything was just crowded and packed basically 2 months before everything had to be done. And this is basically the problem that we have now, because now we have the next big change. It was introduced in 2023. Everybody was knowing what was coming until I think 2020, but still nobody really seems to care. It's basically like these the picture of these three apes. So one is closing the eyes, the other one is closing the mouth, and the third one is closing the ears. So basically, we see that everybody knows that they have to adapt very fast and that there is some big changes. Some of them are minor, but still everybody seems to ignore it. And I hope that with this small and short webinar, we can make you aware that this is maybe not the best approach. So why did we do all this in the European Union and the markets that are linked to it? Of course, because first of all, we want to have a free movement of machinery and products, and of course, we want high safety standards, and we want safety standards that are basically the same in every member state. So we see an impact in the numbers. Since the 1990s, the fatal work accidents significantly got down. So we are in a downward trend since then, even though, of course, the machinery got more complex, because we have the safety standards got up, but on the other side, the complexity of machinery was increasing heavily. We have when I will show you back a little later what was a machinery like in 2006, but if you go back, what just have changed in the last 5 years or 6 years, you can see that the complexity of our world and the complexity of the economy is way higher than it was. But still, fatal accidents have been dropping since the 1990s almost continuously. In the last decade, it was declining by 10 to 15%, depending on which numbers you take into account. And this is, of course, one of the main reasons, because we have harmonized standards, we have modern standards, they have been revised all the time, they have been adapted, and we have also a higher level of technical documentation. It has been addressed the whole life cycle of, so machinery has to be safe in the whole life cycle, and still we have 3,000 just fatal accidents across the European Union every year. So there's still a lot of things to do. We don't want anybody to die during work. Everybody shall at least enjoy. In Germany, we would say the Feierabendbier, so the beer you have when everything is done during the day. And of course, for us as people that are in these topics, we are related to safety. It's not an easy job, because most of the times we have to tell people that what they are doing is not right and how they are doing it is not right. And even if they tell us, okay, they have been doing it for the last 25 years, this doesn't make it safe. Just because nothing happened, it doesn't mean that it was safe in the first place. And so often we are the ones that get blamed, that processes become more complex, that they cannot work as they used to be. But still, our approach is that everybody goes home safe. Maybe they can hate us when they go home, but they go home safe. This is what our job is about, in my opinion. And every life that is saved is one reason why we do what we do and why we love our profession. So back in 2006, we had machinery, of course, but it was isolated. It was mostly offline, and we didn't have that much safety functions. And software had a very limited influence on safety. Basically, it had or almost no influence at all. Everything was really isolated offline. The functional safety as we know it today, so the IEC 61508 and the IEC 61511, they were just released. And as you know, for when a standard gets released, until it's really in place. Sometimes it's 2 years, sometimes it's 3 or 4 years. So the changes are very slowly going into everything. So in 2003, it was introduced. 2005, this old machinery directive was basically finished. So there was not that much talking about functional safety as we do it now. We had no connectivity, we had no mobile apps, we had no, so basically the iPhone was introduced in 2007. So in 2006, remember what we had? We had very big mobile phones every day since, where it was still getting smaller and not bigger as now. So the screens were getting smaller because there was no internet on the smartphones yet. So the whole world was a complete different one. Remote access options were highly controlled, tightly controlled, because basically they were non-existent. And cybersecurity for machinery, nobody talked about this. Maybe you were talking about a firewall for your home or for the ERP system of the company, but the machinery was not even connected to the internet. There were no updates, and no updates even necessary. And of course, there was no artificial intelligence. This is everything just developed over the last, basically 20 years. So this all was taken into account when they said, okay, we need a new legal framework. So we have the old rules, but the old rules. Sorry, my headphone just restarted. So the old rules that were applying for all this, they don't make any sense anymore for us now. And we need more options. We need more detail, especially into electrical engineering, into networking. And so they said, okay, we will do a complete new regulation, a new framework. So this was the main core. Of course, we had, in the meantime, we had some accidents that also had a very big impact. In 2022, a lot of wind turbines in Germany and I think Belgium, Dutch, they were basically spinning out of control because they lost connection to the servers, but they couldn't be stopped anymore. And there was no regulation that said, okay, if your machinery is just driven remotely and it loses the connection, it has to go to a safe state. So something like this had a very big impact during the phase of writing these regulation. And so we now have a regulation that will be taken into account from 2027 on, which basically has everything inside that we are now talking about. So we have AI, we have networking, we have remote access, and for everything there is a rule. Now, the problem was with the old directive, you could not change it. Why couldn't you change it? Because the directive always has to be applied in every member state. And with every member state, they can do minor changes because it's just a minimum requirement. So what they had to do when they want to change it, they changed the directive, and every member state has to change the directive for themselves too. So it's a very, very long process. And also we had an inconsistency because of course in the standards were different because the minimum standard was like this. Some member states got a higher standard, some member states just do the bare minimum that they had to do. So the manufacturers were in a very unclear situation for basically bringing the products on the market. And since we know that the technique is automation is changing very rapidly, we needed an approach that gives also the European Union the option to change and adapt very fast. This is why they did basically the regulation instead of a directive. So a regulation is immediately applied. And every member state of the European Union, so for example, for Switzerland, which is known member state of the European Union, we have to adapt to this, and we will take this one into account, and we have to adapt very, very fast also. But there is no vote for the parliaments of the member states anymore. So this will be basically valid from January 2020 on, 2027. But the problem is, since there is now a directive and also the old machinery, now we have a regulation and a directive. So what was not possible was that they have like an overlap. So the new regulation will be valid in one moment, and up to then it's just still the old directive, which also has a very big impact, of course, on declaration of conformity of everything that is done with manufacturing process, because all the old rules apply until this day, and from January 20 on, the new rules apply. We haven't had such a hard cut for such a directive or for any product on the market since I can remember. So we don't know how the industry will react, and we don't know how the people will react. And this is one of the main reasons why it's very important to know what's coming, because if you realize that on beginning on 2027, it will be too late, because you have to adapt and there is no overlap, never. So in the moment that the regulation comes into account, everything that was old is gone. But you are still not allowed to do basically a declaration of conformity according to the new machinery regulation, because also this one is only valid and from January 2027 on. So it's a very hard. So we will see, because we are of course interested in this, and we will we are thrilled how the market will do this. But still, what is the overview? What is the key change, the key dates? So basically, the whole thing was adopted and published in the European law block on 29th of June of 2023. It became valid on July 2023, and so on 20th of January 2027, it's the date of the full, basically the hard cut. This is the hard cut date. 19th of January is still 2006/42 EG. 20th of January, we have Machinery Regulation 2023/1230. We have a broader scope. We have software included, AI systems, interconnected machinery, some cybersecurity requirements, but everything is also now in a new legal framework, like the PED, like the low voltage directive. So it's basically new and improved, but it's not like it has been changed everything. So first of all, the definition of machinery stays mostly the same. The definition of machinery is basically, it's mechanical equipment with actuators, control systems, interconnected part, and at least one moving component. This is the most common one, and this stays exactly the same. The problem is that, or what was happening before, because there was a very, very little gap, and of course manufacturers used it as and to disadvantage, or there was a very big disadvantage for the operators, because if they sent you the full machine without the software, but the software was there with an USB stick, and you put it together, they could sell you the machine as incomplete and the software as incomplete, and you, as the one who connected everything together, was the one who was responsible for the declaration of conformity and for the whole conformity assessment. And this one is not possible anymore, because they got one definition added, and so a machine is considered complete even if the required software has not been yet installed, which is very important. And this is one of the key changes inside of the definitions. So the responsibility, even though the software is maybe not on the machine yet, is still by the manufacturer and is not at the operator or the one who builds everything up. Second of all, we have a new approach for safety, or not. It changes, or it's not completely new. It's improved. Let's say it like this. So we still have this 3-step safety principle. So we have the design, technical measures, and then information for the guys who are operating it. Safety has to be for over the whole period of lifetime of the machinery. So assembly, installation, operation, and so on, to dismantling, but also for partly completed machinery. Because if you had to do with this, you know that partly completed machinery, they basically just had two pages of or 2 paper sheets, and that's basically what it was. Now they have to do a complete new approach, and it's very similar to what they have to do to machinery, but we will see. So we have a lot or a much deeper integration of functional safety now. It is mentioned basically in the annex 20 to 40 times. So it has been adapted now since it was introduced in 2003, and we were working with this, and it wasn't the standards, yes, but it was not so deeply interconnected with the directive as it is now with the regulation. What they did, the former Annex 4, this was the dangerous machines. Sorry, I don't know why it keeps restarting. I think because I don't hear anything anymore. But the categorization of machinery. So we always had the high class, the machinery which is high risk basically, and the machinery which is no risk or low risk machinery. Basically, it stayed the same. We have new classifications, but this is something that you will hear and will see in broader schooling, and you can read this in the directive. For you, basically important to know is that the list of dangerous machines went from Annex 4 to Annex 1, and it can be changed. Because since the directive never could be changed, because every member state had basically their own law for it, it was almost impossible to change the high risk machines. Now they can change it. The Commission can change it. And so if technology is evolving, we can maybe at some point we can get rid of some of the machines that we now consider as high risk. And on the other hand, if some new technology comes to the market, we can, first of all, we can, if it needs to, integrate it in the high risk machinery, which always needs a notified body or some other third parties inside of the process of certification. For partly completed machinery, I told you already, there are the biggest changes basically. So first of all, when you were building partly completed machinery, you could, I mean, it had to be safe, but you could say which requirements of the old directive you did not fulfill. Now, every relevant health and safety requirement has to be fulfilled also for partly completed machinery. And the manufacturers basically have to do the same technical documentation that they have to do for full machinery, also for partly completed machinery. So there is kind of a manual, there is signing on it. So they have to, so it still has to be identifiable, because up to now and up to 2027, partly completed machinery, there is not even a type sign nor anything. It's not, or there was at least no obligation to do it. Now, basically, we have the same requirements for machinery as we have for partly completed machinery. In the end, you have the declaration of incorporation as we always had it, but we can only issue it if it's in complete compliance with Annex 3. So the machine itself has to be safe, and only those requirements that can only be fulfilled at the time the partly completed machinery is incorporated into the final machinery can be taken outside of this assessment. For the assembly instructions, we have basically very, very big changes, as I said, because now it becomes more like a manual. It has to describe, of course, the conditions, how it is built into another machinery. But on the other side, it has to contain information that is relevant for the final machine's documentation and manual. So you have to tell also how to operate this whole thing when it's built in the final document, final machinery where it was supposed to be in. Also, the instructions have to cover foreseeable misuse, transport handling, noise vibration, like it is for full machinery also. Also, a very, very big and important change, especially for EHS, is the substantial modification. You know that machinery placed on the market that you were operating for years, at some point you have to modify it. You have to modify it because maybe the scope of the machine changed, or you have to modify it because you have to increase the safety, or because you need it for a complete different thing. And it was never clear when does the declaration of conformity of the manufacturer is really taken out of place. It's not valid anymore because the change is so big that you become the manufacturer of the new machine. Now we have a clear definition. I won't read it to you, but this is the clear definition that it gives to you. And it gives us basically the chance, and I know that the standards for this are already in development, so we will also have harmonized standards telling us what to do and how to see if there is a substantial modification or not. So for the operating side, this is a very, very good change. And what's really important, and this is where I even made it fat. If you change something, or if you changed something and it was a substantial modification, you always had to do the complete assignment for the complete old machinery. So basically you became the manufacturer of the old machinery, including the changes. Now they said, okay, components untouched by the change do not require repeated testing or new documentation. So they remain in their old conformity, and you just have to assess the changes that you did. One of the big parts, or the most discussed part, of course, is this protection against corruption, which basically means that cybersecurity is directly tied to the machinery safety and to the machinery regulation. Updates that you do have to be secure and are not allowed to introduce new risk to the machine. If there is corruption attempts, machines have to enter a safe state. So they have to basically recognize that there is a corruption or that there is a hacking attempt, and they have to put themselves in a safe state so nobody can get hurt and nobody can, or there is no possible lose of control, for example, for the machine or for the operator. As I already said, if connection remotely is lost and the machine is operated remotely, it also has to go to a safe state. This was basically the reaction of the almost collapse of the energy market in 2022. So the protection against corruption is a very, very big topic, but this is the only topic that is basically, we have no standards for this yet. We have no standards for cybersecurity because this is all still in development and will be released somewhere in 2026 to 2027. We have, of course, management standards which have been valid for the last 10 years, but what exactly the machinery industry has to do to protect the machinery that they sell for corruption or against corruption, this is something we will see during the next year. So even if you have a lot of questions to this particular topic, I'm not sure if I can answer them already. Because we also are waiting for the new and the new released standards to this topic. The other thing, of course, is AI and self-learning systems in machinery. ChatGPT and Grok, and I don't know how all these new tools have been called, but we use them. We use them. Many use them on a daily basis, and also, of course, the machines use them. When machines are built to learn from their own behavior, from their own and to increase productivity, to increase everything that they do, of course. And this is wanted by the market, but still it has to be safe. So the machinery is not allowed to learn something that undermines the safety. So basically, if you read the whole article, it's about not getting Skynet, even if it's just for machinery. But of course, it's not possible for a machine to learn something that will make the machine unsafer in its operation. Also, if you update the software, it's not allowed to have new risk. So even AI-driven machinery often, not always, but often will fall into class 2 of the machinery. So high risk machinery. I think in 5 to 10 seconds my headphone will restart if I. But then you will just see it. But I will continue. So the notified body at least can know that there is something going on. Of course, also the documentation has to be more detailed, because everybody has to know what is this machine learning and how is it learning. And humans is so human oversight of everything is okay. I hope you can hear me again. I think this is the last time, because I'm almost done. So human oversight is mandatory. So it's not possible, even if the machine is completely running in AI mode, there still has to be someone who can stop the machine. One very good change also is the change to digital documentation. It was not allowed for the manufacturers yet to get you a machine or to sell you a machine and don't give you a paper copy of the technical file, which lead, of course, if you have a very interconnected machinery, turbines or something like this, then you basically you had 60,000 pages of paper, and they had to deliver them. Now it's allowed and fully permitted to just give you a link, a QR code, or an USB stick with the technical documentation. And of course, we assume this will become standard very, very fast. And the moment they are allowed to do it, they will do it. And of course, for us on the other side, it's also much more convenient, because you can search through these documents so you can work with these documents very more easy than you are working with the paper documents. Of course, if you request a paper version, you are always allowed to get one, and they're free of charge, but you have to request it when you buy the machine. So this is the only thing. You cannot come in after 6 years and you want a paper copy. You have to do it while, or in the moment basically you buy the machine. And the problem for the manufacturers will be that the links on the machinery, the QR codes, everything that basically gets you access to this is not allowed to change for at least the 10 years that are still the time limit that they have to give you everything. So for 10 years, they basically are not allowed to change the websites for the manuals and for the technical documentation. And what's very convenient for us as users, we are not required, or it's forbidden to require some unnecessary data collection or user accounts to get to these documents that are somewhere in the cloud. what is the big achievements of this whole machinery regulation? We have a now changeable standard, so we can adapt to new developments inside of the industry very fast. We have connected and software-driven machinery inside of the scope. We have some closed, long-standing legal gaps. And of course, still we have a higher level of protection for users, operators, and society. What do we have to prepare for? We have, of course, a higher safety obligations, especially for the guys who are building machines, who are selling machine. Everything is inside of the scope, even updates. We have higher expectations for partly completed machinery. We can expect digital documentation, and we will have a big trouble in the industry because of the hard cut in January 2027. So what you need to know, if somebody now sells you a machine with already the EU declaration of conformity according to the new machinery regulation, for example, it's not valid. This whole thing is not in place yet. They still have to sell it to you with the old conformity. So this hard cut, this will be very interesting. So for you, prepare for it and try to prepare for your companies for it, so that we can maybe have a very quiet day on the 20th of January and not a chaotic one. And basically this has been everything from my side. And of course, now I'm open for questions.
Wonderful. Thank you for that, Robert. Very interesting, very insightful changes that are coming our way in January 2027. So yeah, we have a few questions I may pose to you before we wrap up this webinar. So the first one was, will we receive a presentation at the end? So I believe that it will be made available.
I think you already have it, so yeah.
Yeah, on the member resource hub of the WIRSM website. So it should, yeah, it will be available to all the members over the next few days. A question from Richard Spitzer was, if I place an order for a machine now, but this machine will be delivered at site after January the 20th, it says 2026 there, but I'm guessing the question means 2027. How should I write my specification?
Exactly, this is exactly the most tricky part. So if everything is delivered before the 20th of January 2027, nothing will change. You still have the same old regulation or directive, I'm sorry. But when it is delivered on 20th of January, it has fully to apply to the new legislation. So basically, this is the problem with this hard cut. So even for the developers and for the sellers, if they for some reason have a delay and it is expected to be delivered on January 1st, but it will be delivered on February 1st, they have to already apply to the new ruling. It is not like when we had the CE UKCA thing, that because there was basically also this in the for the UK, that there was a certain time where CE was still allowed, and then you could change to the ruling. It's hard cut. So if so anything that is before the 20th of January will be according to 2006/42 EG, and everything from January 20 on will be with the new legislation and the new requirements.
So I guess the key for the users or the purchasers of machinery really is to have very good open communication with the manufacturer to if there are likely to be delays or the delivery dates are scheduled for after, then to ensure that this has been taken into consideration, that the declaration of conformity and the CE marking exercise will be in line with the new regulation and not the previous directive.
Correct, because I think with UCAS it was that when everything was signed, so the contracts were signed, but the delivery date was later, then still the old rules would have been applying. But this is not. It has to be delivered completely, and then this is the hard cut.
Mm-hmm. So I had a bit of question. You did touch on it in your presentation regarding the support and documentation guidance. That is being worked on presently, but
Correct.
there's no scheduled delivery or publication of that, because that makes it very difficult, doesn't it, for the
Yes.
manufacturers to have a very clear understanding of how this new regulation applies and how they can comply. So
Correct.
but
I mean,
that's
we don't even have a list of harmonized standards yet, so it's really tricky. So because I think, as I said, everybody was expecting that there would be a gap between both, or some time where both of them are valid, but this is legally it's not possible. And so all the harmonized standards, so list of harmonized standards is gone. All the harmonized standards according to 2006-24 EG has to be reapplied and reharmonized for the new legislation. So we as Technical Safety Institute, we also don't know what's coming. I mean, we are talking with the guys who are developing the norms and standards, yes, but even they say this time frame is very, very short. So it could be that the very central requirements for cybersecurity will be only released 4 months before the hard cut. And of course, this is a very hard topic then for the manufacturers.
Yeah, completely. Are you aware of any other material out there that either manufacturers or the users of machinery can start to gain a greater understanding on those two, in particular, around the cybersecurity and AI? Because it is still very fresh. It's new, and I think there probably will be a lot of gaps in different organizations regarding that knowledge, in particular how it applies here and how we comply. Are you aware of anything that's currently out there that people can start to gain a greater understanding of?
Basically, we are all searching for something like this. I have to admit.
Okay.
So there are some people that, of course, sell the knowledge, but since nobody knows what's in the standard or what will be in the standard, even if you go to lectures or you go to companies that are specialized, they cannot tell you the exact requirements. They can tell you how to prepare and what to expect, but so we are expecting, for example, that there will be some kind of risk assessment required for cybersecurity, but nobody knows how deep it has to be and how it has to be done. And there are companies that sell you the knowledge to do such a risk assessment, but without an existing standard like EN 12100 for risk assessment for machinery, for example, then you have the method and you know exactly what to do. But we don't have this yet for cybersecurity. So basically, it's like very foggy. The future is still very foggy. We know something is coming and will come, but how the shape will be exactly, still very blurry.
Okay. And I'm guessing that the changes to sort of Annex 3, so the essential health and safety requirements, but predominantly the changes there will be around those two new areas subjects. So
Correct.
AI, cybersecurity.
Correct. The rest is basically the same as it was in the machinery directive. The scope has been widened for AI, cybersecurity, and remote access. So this is the three basic or very big points that has been added, and where there are new requirements because we have new technology and we have a complete new approach how we operate machinery.
Yeah. And the final question for me really is an obvious answer. Obviously, but so I'm not sure if anyone on the call is based in the UK, but my understanding, Robert, is that nothing will change there. So, you know, it will still work to the supply of machinery regulations and the equipment will be required to have the UKCA certification. There'll be no changes there. I'm not sure if you're aware of there's a potential that the UK may look to adopt this later on, if those conversations have even been
I think
taken
so.
place.
I definitely think so, because we saw the same with the UKCA. Because at some point, even the UK, so now it's not obligatory anymore for us as European suppliers to put it, so CE still is somehow valid until further notice, I think was the last that it was my information. And since the market of the European Union is much bigger than the Swiss market, for example, or the UK market, it makes no sense to have a different legislation in place with different requirements, because then your industry has always to build two varieties of the same thing. So we expect for Norway, for Switzerland, and also for the UK that they will adapt to the new rules very fast.
Okay.
Because we have the same problem in Switzerland.
Yeah, sure. Brilliant. Okay. Well, I currently don't see any other questions coming through. So I would just like to thank everyone for joining. Robert, I would like to thank you again for your time, for your very informative presentation. As things progress throughout the next year, maybe we'll invite you back and have some further information from you as new information comes through onto the market and some of these dates become clearer. I think it might be a very useful topic to follow up with later on in the year, if that's okay with you. But I greatly appreciate your time this afternoon. And thank you once again to everyone who joined. So with that, I will close this webinar, and I will look forward to next time that we're online in the near future. So I wish everyone a great day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a great day, everybody.